The Pac-12 has been at the heart of so many different expansion theories and possibilities ever since it was called the Pac-10. Of course, everybody remembers the Pac-16 expansion that almost happened, as they had Texas, Texas Tech, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State almost leave the Big 12 to join the Pac-12 back in 2010 and create the NCAA's first modern super conference. That conference ended up falling through though because nobody at the University of Texas or at the Pac-12 knew what to do with the Longhorn Network. What a worthless network that is. Then in 2020, when Oklahoma and Texas did end up leaving the Big 12 for the SEC, there was some thought that the Pac-12 could take in the remaining 10 members of the Big 12 conference, and this was the first time we heard the phrase Pac-20. That conference would have stretched from Washington down to Texas as far across as West Virginia. Imagine a Pac-20 with Oregon, Washington, and Cal, as well as Kansas, Iowa State, and Texas Tech. But of course, everyone now knows that USC and UCLA didn't want the Pac-12 to expand that far or associate with schools like Baylor or TCU. The Big 12 pivoted to add BYU, Cincinnati, UCF, and Houston, and USC and UCLA chose to jump to the Big 10 instead of sticking with the Pac-12. This created a whole bunch of chain reactions that ended up nearly collapsing the conference and killing its status as a power conference forever. It was left with just Washington State and Oregon State, who were the only two schools that didn't get an invite to join another conference. Those two schools ended up suing every other school for the right to continue the Pac-12 name. With that money, they ended up scheduling an agreement with the Mountain West for football this season, where they'll be able to play some games against schools like Boise State, San Diego State, Fresno State, and Colorado State. In what many called a surprise month a month or so ago, it turned out those schools were going to be joining Washington State and Oregon State in the Pac-12 though, with those four schools being the premier brands left in the conference. Utah State would join them a little bit later, with Gonzaga also announcing that they'd be joining the conference to bring the total membership to 8 with 7 football playing members. But considering they were taking members from the Mountain West, and there were a few members of that conference that were still available, there were some thoughts that the Pac-12 would just inhale all the members of the Mountain West one by one, making it not a merger but a hostile takeover. That's where this graphic comes in, the Pac-20. While it wouldn't feature a lot of big-time programs in the Western United States, it'd pretty much run a monopoly on everybody else that's there. Instead of there being multiple conferences with Western members in it, this conference would take everyone of value that's left and would make sure that the Pac would be the only conference that matters out west. Today we're going to talk about all the schools that would make up a hypothetical Pac-20, what this would mean, where they would come from, and overall my thoughts on this. It's more of a fun style video, but before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to take a quick moment to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you can support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's get started, and go ahead and talk about this Pac-20, and if it actually would happen. But first, let's hear a word from today's sponsor, MyBookie. Convicted as I am about a certain bet, be sure to place your bet with MyBookie. This season, MyBookie is pulling out all the stops with incredible promotions like a weekly risk-free boost on Thursdays where you can bet without a sweat. If your bet hits, you win big. If it doesn't, forget it. MyBookie will refund your wager. But that's just the beginning. MyBookie is giving away hundreds of thousands in prizes with their Super, Survivor, and Square contests. Get your entries now in for your shot at huge cash rewards. When you're ready to get started, be sure to use my promo code Fisher50 and make sure to get some extra cash on top of your first deposit. If you type in Fisher50, you'll get up to $1,000 in a welcome bonus bet plus a $10 casino chip. MyBookie's tiered bonuses make it easy to deposit with crypto or with credit, and the bigger your deposit, the bigger your bonus. The bonus would be 100% match up to $1,000 plus a $10 casino chip. With MyBookie, you can bet on anything, anywhere, at any time, and make your season a winning season. Be sure to check out my link down below and use my promo code Fisher50. Let's first start at looking at members who were added from the Mountain West. UNLV was one of the first schools that hinted at joining the new Pac-12, considering their location in a new sports city in Las Vegas, and the fact that the Pac-12 has recently tried to get into the Vegas market multiple times by having their championship game there. Despite also being historically bad at football, UNLV has started to put it together recently. This means they could be a good addition in the future. They've also been a historically great basketball program and actually won a national championship in 1990. The only reason they're staying in the Mountain West right now though is because the current patchwork Pac-12 doesn't have enough money to pay their buyout from the Mountain West quite yet. But along with UNLV would be Nevada Reno, the Wolfpack. A lot of people have considered them to be a package deal with the Rebels because of how tight the two universities were tied in Nevada legislature. In California, the Pac would take the final remaining Mountain West member from the state in San Jose State. The Spartans historically aren't that great of a program, as they have a 49% winning percentage all time, and their attendance has been so bad that they literally tore down an entire side of their stadium to put a training center there instead. It used to fit 31,000 fans, and it now seats 18,000. but they are a good university to have in the conference and to keep a footprint there. Moving eastward, the conference would also need to add rivals for Colorado State. Currently, the only school in the Pac-12 that can be considered a rival to the Rams is Utah State. Wyoming, Colorado State's biggest rival, not named Colorado, will most likely miss their shot in the Pac-12 because of how small the state of Wyoming is. But the Cowboys have been a fairly successful program in the past, as at one point they were one of the top dogs in the WAC with Arizona, Arizona State, and Utah. They're the program in the state, and they can get a hold of some ranch money. They could be a surprisingly good program. To the south of the state of Colorado is New Mexico, and one of the schools added from there are the New Mexico Lobos. They have a great media market since they're the state's biggest city of Albuquerque, and they also have a sneaky good history with their basketball program. Despite the football program not being good at all, they've got the money to put it together, and they might actually become a fairly solid program in the future. Joining them from the Mountain West will be its newest member, UTEP, who's a lot like Wyoming in the fact that they used to be in the WAC with the Arizona schools, Utah, and BYU. There was a time where UTEP could have been one of the better schools in the country since they actually won the NCAA basketball championship in 1966 over Kentucky. Their stadium, the Sun Bowl, would also be the biggest in the conference at 51,000 capacity. Despite being in the state of Texas, the city of El Paso is in the Mountain Time Zone, meaning there would be no issues in scheduling with other members of the conference in the Mountain Time Zone. Also in the graphic is UTEP's biggest rival, the New Mexico State Aggies. They're also rivals with New Mexico. The Aggies haven't shared a conference with the Lobos in years, mostly due to bad blood between the two schools that has only gotten worse over time, with the largest case of that being that New Mexico is currently blocking New Mexico State from even being considered to join the Mountain West right now. But in this proposal, the Lobos and the Aggies join the Miners in the southernmost branch of this Pac-20. The last Mountain West member in this proposal is Hawaii. Being a football-only member of the Mountain West had hurt Hawaii's ability to compete in just about every sport, since they're members of the Big West Conference in other sports and literally had to pay for flights to and from the mainland all the time. Now, as full members of the Mountain West, that's not an issue anymore. In this new proposed Pac-20 conference, it's easy to see how they'd spend most of their time playing schools on the West Coast to ease up travel. Despite not having much success over the years, the Warriors have a rich history with football and could be one of the most colorful additions to the conference. With money coming in, it could end up being one of the better programs in the conference too. The only Mountain West member not in this proposal is Air Force, which I could see joining the American to be in with their rivals Navy and Army, so the Commander-in-Chief trophy is an in-conference battle. Okay, so you'll notice that there are some FCS programs being considered for this conference too. The most prominent of these FCS programs are the two schools in Montana. Both Montana and Montana State have historically some of the best football programs in the FCS, and they've had stadiums and fan bases to prove it. This is all despite coming from one of the least populated areas in the entire country too. The Grizzlies are 128-36 under head coach Bobby Hauck and play in a 25,000 capacity stadium in Missoula. This is known as the Mecca of the FCS. They have 2 FCS national titles under their belt and could make a great addition to any Western Conference. They'd be joined by their rivals Montana State. Despite playing in a smaller stadium at just under 18,000 fans and it being a 50% win percentage all time, the Bobcats are clearly the better program of the two at the current moment. They've made the national championship game more recently than Montana has, and their only losses in the tournament in the FCS have come against North Dakota State and South Dakota State. The other team in the Rockies that could join is Idaho, who used to be a member of the FBS, before willingly dropping themselves to the FCS Big Sky in order to better compete. Since dropping to the FCS in 2018, Idaho has gone 35-34 and has made the FCS tournament twice under Jason Eck as head coach. They're a program getting better and better and would make a good addition to their former rivals in Boise State and Washington State. Historically, their basketball program has also been fairly underrated. The last FCS school here is probably the one that is most likely to join the FBS, and that is Sacramento State, which would provide a 4th team in California. Sac State has been the FCS program that put the most work into joining the FBS over the last few months, announcing in September a plan for a new 25,000 capacity football stadium and an agreement with the Sacramento Kings to play men's and women's basketball in their arena. Under the Sac-12 committee, they've also been raising money to help push the program into the FBS and immediately join the Pac-12. While they can't do that because the Pac-12 needs FBS schools immediately and not a school that'll take it minimum 2 years to join as an FBS member, Sac State would be a great addition to the Mountain West, and in this proposal, the Pac-20. Despite there being schools like Gonzaga already in the Pac-12 and schools like Grand Canyon and St. Mary's being considered for the Mountain West, the Pac-20 proposal also includes one non-football member, and it's a weird one to say the least. This is the Division II Alaska Anchorage Seawolves. The Seawolves are one of the country's most prominent hockey powers, though their rivals in Alaska Fairbanks are even more so. I'm guessing the main reason why Alaska Anchorage is in here isn't just because it'd be nice to pair another crazy team like Hawaii, but also because Alaska Anchorage has actually been putting research into adding a football team into their athletic program. Now, without a doubt, they'd be the worst team in the conference. It'd be really difficult to get to, it'd be extremely expensive, and would probably be stupid, but for the sake of a fun video and for a fun graphic, they are a fun team to include in this. Now, honestly, I'm not sure what the heck I would think if this conference actually happened. It'd probably look a lot like Boise State, Oregon State, Wazoo, and San Diego State running the show in football, with a few other programs like Colorado State, UNLV, and Montana State occasionally making a push. What it would really do is create an issue with the rest of the Western conferences in the NCAA. I could see the Big Sky, after losing so many of their members, panicking to add a few other members, and potentially merging with a few other regional conferences just to stay alive. UC Davis and Cal Poly might be forced to join as full members, which would create another chain reaction of realignment in the FCS that could potentially drag more Division schools up to Division I. As for the Pac-20, it would definitely be the biggest conference in college sports as soon as it was created. I'm not sure if it would be stable, since it stretches from Texas to Hawaii to Alaska, but it'd be interesting for sure to see how it would grow and develop over time. Maybe a few teams explode like Colorado State or UTEP, or who knows, maybe Alaska Anchorage becomes the next great team in college football. Probably not, but what the heck do you guys think? What do you think of this crazy idea of a Pac-20? What other schools also deserve to be in contention? And what do you guys think of this overall? Be sure to let me know down below, leave a like if you can support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out my other videos on the end screen. I hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.